Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was never supposed to be here. He wasn't a five-star recruit. He wasn't a high school phenom with mixtapes going viral. He wasn't even good enough to make his high school varsity team as a freshman. But today, he's one of the most unguardable players in the NBA, breaking records, leading a young Oklahoma City Thunder team to contention, and making defenders look foolish every single night. How does a kid from Hamilton, Ontario, go from being overlooked at every stage of his career to becoming one of the most dominant guards in the league? This is the story of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the superstar no one saw coming. Shai was born in Toronto but grew up in Hamilton, Ontario. His mother, Charmaine Gilgeous, was a track athlete, and his father, Vaughn Alexander, played basketball and later became his first coach. But athleticism alone didn't make Shai great. In fact, as a 14-year-old, he wasn't even considered good enough to make his high school varsity team. That rejection could have ended his dream right there. Instead, it lit a fire in him. Rather than sulking, Shai worked relentlessly on his game. He trained with Dwayne Washington, a well-respected coach who ran UPlay Canada, the same program that developed Jamal Murray and RJ Barrett. Washington saw something in Shai that others didn't: his ability to think the game at a high level, manipulate defenses, and dictate pace. Shai didn't rely on elite speed or jaw-dropping athleticism like other top prospects. Instead, he focused on precision, patience, and unpredictability. By his junior year, he transferred to Hamilton Heights Christian Academy in Tennessee, facing tougher competition and proving he belonged. He wasn't a top-tier recruit yet, but his IQ, footwork, and relentless work ethic were setting the foundation for what was coming next. Even after making a name for himself in high school, Shai was still just a four-star recruit, barely cracking ESPN's top 50 rankings. He initially committed to Florida, but later switched to Kentucky, a powerhouse program loaded with NBA talent. But even at Kentucky, he wasn't the guy, at least not at first. Shai started his freshman season on the bench, playing behind Quade Green, a more hyped recruit. But adversity had always been part of his journey. He stayed patient, put in the work, and slowly earned more minutes. Shai led Kentucky through the SEC tournament with a masterclass performance, dropping 29 points in the championship game. In the NCAA tournament, he was by far the team's best player, putting up 27 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists against Buffalo in one of his best performances. But in the Sweet 16, Kentucky fell to Kansas State, ending Shai's college career. Still, his rise was undeniable. On April 9, 2018, he declared for the NBA draft.
With the 11th pick in the 2018 NBA draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
And while some scouts saw the potential, most didn't see what was coming next. Draft night in 2018 was filled with hype for players like Luka Doncic, DeAndre Ayton, and Trae Young. Shai? He wasn't in that conversation. He was projected as a late lottery pick, a solid prospect, but not a franchise-changing talent. The Charlotte Hornets selected him with the 11th overall pick, but immediately traded him to the Los Angeles Clippers. And just like in high school and college, Shai started as a backup, but once he got his shot, he made it impossible to keep him off the floor. By midseason, he was the Clippers' starting point guard, showing flashes of his signature smooth, methodical game. He wasn't putting up insane numbers, but he played like a veteran, poised, efficient, and unbothered by pressure. Even in the playoffs, going up against the Dynasty Warriors, Shai dropped 25 points in Game 4, proving he belonged on the big stage. But just when it seemed like the Clippers had found their franchise guard, everything changed. In the summer of 2019, the Clippers were desperate to land Kawhi Leonard in free agency. But there was a catch. Kawhi would only sign if the Clippers traded for Paul George. So, in one of the biggest trades in NBA history, LA sent a massive haul of draft picks, Danilo Gallinari, and their young rising star, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, to Oklahoma City. For most players, getting shipped away like that might have been discouraging. Not for Shai. He saw it as another opportunity. And in his first year with the Thunder, he proved he wasn't just some trade asset. He led the team in scoring with 19 points per game and helped them make the playoffs despite everyone expecting them to tank. He wasn't just holding his own, he was making a name for himself as one of the best young guards in the league. But then, OKC hit the reset button. Chris Paul was traded. Danilo Gallinari was gone. The Thunder were supposed to be rebuilding. That meant losing games. That meant developing young talent. That meant Shai would finally get the keys to the offense. And that's when everything changed. When Oklahoma City traded away its veteran stars and embraced a full rebuild, most people thought Shai Gilgeous-Alexander would put up empty stats on a losing team. But that's not what happened. Instead, Shai turned the Thunder into one of the most exciting young teams in the NBA. And in the process, he went from a rising star to a full-blown superstar. In the 2020-21 season, he took a massive leap, averaging 23.7 points per game while shooting a ridiculous 51% from the field. But his season was cut short after 35 games due to a foot injury. That injury? It was a blessing in disguise. OKC was already tanking, and Shai's absence helped them land a high draft pick. But more importantly, it gave him time to sharpen his game even further. By the time he returned in 2021 to 2022, he was stronger, smarter, and more confident than ever. He improved as a playmaker, started developing a lethal mid-range jumper, and became one of the best guards in the league at getting to the free throw line. The only thing holding him back? The Thunder still weren't winning enough games, but that was about to change. Heading into the 2022-23 season, nobody expected OKC to be a playoff contender. The roster was still young. Chet Holmgren, their highly anticipated rookie, got hurt before even playing a game. The Thunder were supposed to struggle. Instead, Shai had other plans. That year he exploded. 31.4 points per game, 51% from the field, over 90% from the free throw line. Only Michael Jordan had ever put up a season like that with the same scoring, efficiency, and defensive impact. Shai wasn't just a rising star anymore, he was an MVP candidate. Defenders had no answer for him. He wasn't a high-volume three-point shooter, but it didn't matter. He attacked the rim relentlessly, using his crafty footwork, hesitation moves, and long strides to get wherever he wanted on the court. His mid-range jumper was automatic. His ability to change speeds was second to none. And when the game was on the line, he was the guy. Shai led the NBA in clutch scoring, proving time and time again that he could take over when it mattered most. By the end of the season, he was named First-Team All-NBA, joining an exclusive list of the 5 best players in the world. He finished 5th in MVP voting, ahead of names like Kevin Durant and LeBron James. And he led OKC to the play-in tournament, just barely missing the playoffs. But this was just the beginning. In 2024, everything came together. The Thunder were no longer a young team with potential. They were a legitimate threat. Shai was still dominating, but now he had help. Chet Holmgren was back. Jalen Williams had emerged as a future star. Josh Giddey was developing into a high IQ playmaker. And OKC, the team that had been tanking for years, won 57 games, the best record in the Western Conference. Shai took his game to another level yet again. He finished second in MVP voting, only behind Nikola Jokic. He was named First-Team All-NBA for the second straight year. He led the league in steals and free throws made, proving that he was more than just an elite scorer. He was a complete player, a two-way monster who could dominate on both ends of the floor. And in the playoffs, he delivered. In the first round, he led OKC to a sweep over the New Orleans Pelicans. He averaged 30 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists, completely controlling the series. It was OKC's first playoff series win since 2016, back when Kevin Durant was still in town. But in the second round, the Thunder ran into the Dallas Mavericks. It was a brutal, hard-fought series that went 6 games, and even though OKC lost, Shai left no doubt. He was the best player on the floor. He averaged 32 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists while shooting over 50% from the field. Even in defeat, he looked like a future champion. So, what separates Shai from other stars? What makes him so unstoppable? It's not raw athleticism. It's not insane three-point shooting. It's something much rarer: control. Shai plays the game at his own pace. He never looks rushed. He never panics. He doesn't rely on pure speed like Ja Morant or overpowered defenders like Giannis. Instead, he manipulates the game. His footwork is elite. His ability to decelerate, to stop on a dime and throw defenders off balance is second to none. He's a mid-range assassin in a league obsessed with threes. He's a pick-and-roll master making the right read every time. And defensively, he's just as lethal. His 7-foot wingspan makes him a menace in passing lanes. He reads plays before they happen. He led the NBA in steals, proving that he's not just a scorer, he's a complete player. This isn't a guy who's just having a hot streak. This is one of the most well-rounded guards the NBA has ever seen. At just 26 years old, Shai is now entering his prime. And if we've learned anything about him, it's that he's never satisfied. OKC has the best young core in the NBA. They still have a stockpile of draft picks. They have cap space to add more talent. They have everything they need to win a championship, and Shai is at the center of it all. The next step: MVP, a finals appearance, a ring. And if history tells us anything, Shai isn't going to stop until he gets there. For years, he was overlooked, underrated, passed over. But those days are long gone. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is here, and he's not going anywhere. If you enjoyed this breakdown of SGA's rise to superstardom, make sure to subscribe and check out our other videos. Do you think Shai will win MVP next season? Will OKC win a championship in the next few years? Let us know in the comments below.